this is EK from EK Gorm Designs, and I am sneaking in today with the first of the 5 fast cards for the Junk Journal and Craft Kit from White Rose Crafts. This is their March kit. It is designed to be a junk journal kit, but you really could use it for anything, but I'm using it as a junk journal to show potentially how to play with it. For our first collection of pages, because it's not cards, clearly it's a junk journal, I pulled out some pine needle distress oxide, and I am literally just making a mess. I wanted to add a little color to these 2 pages. So yeah, I'm just making a mess. And clearly one of the pages, the ink moves a whole lot better than on the other, and we're all just going to deal with the fact that it's an assortment of different type of paper inside this junk journal, so you never know what's going to happen. I'm going to take the Bundled Sage Distress Oxide Reinker and the Finger Sponge. Both of these come in the craft kit, and I'm going to just kind of spread them around the pages to help get kind of an organic feeling to the color. Like, I don't want it to be clear what I've done here. I just really want some nice color in the background, and I do find that if you use enough of the reinker on this page, I can get it to move a little bit. If you've never made a junk journal before, and I will tell you, I have never made a junk journal before, I have a video up. I'll have a video up tomorrow, or the day after this one releases, on how to create a junk journal, and I'll add the, I'll embed the doobly-doo into this video so you can watch it. I'm going to add a piece of the printed cardstock that comes with the kit into the 2 pages, and by putting them on both pages at the same time, I'm actually making the book more secure. I will actually have something that goes between each of the 2 pages on every page that helps keep all the pages in place. And I'm just going to tear up another piece of the cardstock. You'll see that I do a lot of tearing with the junk journal, which I'm kind of finding liberating and fun. There's something about not having to be precise and perfect that I'm really enjoying with this experience of junk journaling and making a mess. I'm also going to pull out a piece of the fiber paper, and instead of tearing it, and it does tear, I'm going to cut it clean. And I love how this orange, or this copper color, transposes over the green and makes a really, really cool effect. I'm just going to add a little bit of adhesive runner tape and add it on top of the book. And I realized this piece hadn't been taped down, so I'm going to trim it away and add it to the other side, so I've got a bit of that copper on both sides. I will tell you, I have some experience with art journaling. But usually then I'm drawing, and there's a little bit more, I don't know what makes the difference between art journaling and junk journaling, except for when I art journal, there's an attempt at creating some kind of image from my own hand, and this feels more like layering. I could be completely wrong, I'll be real honest. They could be the exact same thing, and I just don't know it. I did pull out some of the ribbon that's included in the kit, and I'm going to add some strong double-sided adhesive to it and just break up everything I've got going with this black and white pattern. It's a really strong pattern, and it really felt like it pulled focus of the page, so I went ahead and grabbed one of the 2 stamps included in the kit. It's the sponge one from Prima. And using that same pine needles distress oxide that I had used in the beginning, I just added some textural background around the edges of the junk journal, and it seemed to break up sort of the static of the page and made that one piece that pulled all the focus blend a little bit more into the background, believe it or not. And there you go, there's my first page today from my journal. For the second page, I'm going to put up the distress oxide, and I'm going to pull out a full 6x6 sheet of the scrap berry cardstock that is included in the kit, and use it to make these 2 pages adhere together, I guess. And I'm just going to use my tape runner. My camera stopped working, so we're just going to, in a second, flip to where I've got it adhered. And the page actually hangs over the edge of the dark gray page a little bit, which I'm actually fully okay with. There we go, and I've got that ledger, that piece of green ledger adhered in, and now using the Distress Oxide, I'm just going to splatter it around and then break up the splatters with that distress, or with that sponge stamp. I love how this is distressed the whole page out. Using my heat gun, I dried this a little bit after sponging and breaking up some of the strong, where there were still large puddles of Distress Reinker. I've had so much fun playing with the Distress Reinker in its liquid form because it just, I don't know, it does something cool and special, and I'm loving how this page turned out. Pulling out some of the lace fiber paper, I trimmed it up. I tore it up, but I had to use my scissors to trim that one section where the fiber was really strong. And again, I'm just going to use my double-sided tape runner to adhere in this piece. What's cool about these fiber papers is that you can use water to tear it up, you can tear it with your fingers, you can cut it, you can glue it on with tape, and you can do a matte medium onto it. I added some butterflies, or some of the Japanese vellum stickers. No, they're not vellum. Japanese, they're almost like washi paper stickers to the cardstock, and called that one finished. I love that there's still plenty of room on this page to add a picture or journaling or whatever. For page 3, I pulled out some deep green permanent heavy body paint and just added it to the 2 pages. I did stick a piece of black old cardstock under it so that I wouldn't like destroy the next page with paint, because this, yeah. And I pulled out a brush and with no intention whatsoever just spread the paint around so that I broke up the blue and the white with a lot of that deep green. And like I said, very little intention. It's amazing how sometimes paint won't move on the paper. I did move my thing over a little bit so I could get the edge, but I love the brush strokes. It feels very, very organic and random. I could have almost left this page completely like this and moved on to the next one, but I did decide to let it dry, and I went ahead and added some stuff on top of it. I used a bit of the tissue paper. It's got a fancier name than tissue paper, but it is essentially tissue paper. And using some matte acrylic gel, I adhered the tissue paper to the project, and I love that once you add that gel to it, it becomes really translucent. So it, like, I'm breaking up the green, and yet at the same time the green's still pulling through, and accidentally made that crooked and liked it so much, intentionally went back through and like distressed the edges so there was some more wrinkles and crookedness in it. I pulled out that copper ore fiber paper and added that with the matte medium to the page, and I love how it also becomes almost, it's not translucent, it's, I guess translucent, it's not transparent, it's translucent. And using one of the 12 by 12 toppers, I've cut everything up so the images are all their own little pieces of ephemera now. And I used my matte medium to glue that down. And now I'm pulling out the rice paper and cutting out, fussy cutting out one of the gears. It's not really fussy cutting, I'm cutting out one of the gears. And adding that with some matte medium to the page. And again, that rice paper will go kind of translucent as well. I needed just a little bit more to break up, so using a piece of leftover cardstock, I tore it up and broke up the whole page with the opaque paper. See, using all kinds of fun words. Using some black ink and the other stamp, which is the heart gear stamp, I broke up the background a little bit and just kind of distressed it with the image. And it needed just something else, so on my acrylic block I added some of the more of the Pine Needles distressed ink and some water and just splattered over the whole page, and I love how this one came out. I think there's just something raw and natural and organic with it. For page 4, I love how these 2 pages don't line up like at all. And I'm going to do some more of that splattering technique, and this time just kind of spread it around, again, just to break the color up. I pulled out one of the cardstocks, and using my little finger dauber, I added some of that distress ink around the edges, just so the piece of cardstock would blend in, and adhered it down, making sure there was a nice border, because, you know, sometimes you need a border. It feels so weird tearing up my 6x6 papers like this, and yet at the same time it feels so freeing. Using one of the ephemera pieces, I used it as the thing to adhere between the two, and some really strong double-sided tape. Because this is a heavy cardstock, I wanted that heavier double-sided tape as opposed to just a tape runner. And I've got her glued on, and using that dauber and whatever ink was left on it, I just, yeah. And I threw on a sticker. There's the paper stickers that are included in the kit, and I pulled out some ribbon. I love the shade of turquoise that is this ribbon, and I love the shine that it adds to the page, because everything else is really matte and flat. So I adhered on that ribbon and letting it run over both of the pages. And I feel like it made the whole page kind of feel fancy. I played with a couple different papers to see what would look nice with it, and went with this green and decided that it needed to be torn, that the color was right, but the look was wrong with it being so perfect and square. Adding some matte medium, I spread that around with my trowel, and added, again, that fiber paper with the matte medium, because I just love how translucent it becomes. I had little scraps from where I tore, so I added them to the other sides, letting the fibers hang out, and loved how it pulled the whole piece together just by using those little scraps onto it. I thought about adding some more paper scraps to it, but it felt done. And then I realized what I could do to really break it up. I took one of the stickers, piece of acetate that you peel it off of, and kind of stuck it down to the page, and then using that same heavy body green paint, just sort of distressed the whole page by adding paint to it, and peeled back up that acetate so you had where it was protected from the paint. And I really, really adore how this one came out. The paint, I think, was a perfect touch, and you really can use any kind of paint or even ink to do that kind of technique. My final page for today is the piece of book paper that I added to my journal, and I wanted to break away from that green palette I'd been using, so I pulled out the Aspire Metallics cardstock and just cut it into card size. It got a little bent when I got a little handsy with it and bent it up, and I don't hate that it was bent. I also pulled out some of that tissue paper, and using my double-sided tape and wrinkling it up, I adhered it to the page, and I love how the wrinkles just kind of add to the feel of the whole thing. I pulled out some cheap paint. I think I got this at Target, but it's a copper penny color. It's acrylic paint. It's cheap. It did exactly what I needed it to do, which was distress that book page and tie the color in together. And I pulled out one of my ephemera toppers, and I used it to bind the two pages to each other. Here we go. And the technique that works the best for me is to lay it on one side and then close the page and then open it back up again. And I love the torn little book pages at the bottom of this page. Finally, I searched for a sticker to finish the page. I went through a bunch of different images, and I liked the flower the best. I think because the floral part of the sticker had that same coppery feel tone, and it just seemed to finish the page. I did rip the little vellum sticker. Not vellum. What is it? It's really like a washi sticker, but a washi tape sticker. And I felt the page needed just something else, so I pulled out one of the wood emblems, distressed the edges with black ink, and glued it down. My glossy accents nozzle tip is being stupid, so I pulled out a secondary tape of glue and just adhered it to the page. Then pulling back out that copper paint, I painted the bird, and I love how he's copper and black at the same time. There you go. There's my 5th page today. This is my favorite page. Make sure you let me know in the comments below which of the 5 pages are yours, and stay tuned for the next installment of my 5 fast cards using the junk journal and craft kit from White Rose Crafts.